Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Workforce Wednesday. Today, our topic is Social Media Part 2, The Employer's Perspective. We have our presenters, Jasmine Grabowski and Victoria Hinojosa, along with a few special employer guests. So we will introduce our employers, or Victoria will introduce our employers as we get started. And my name is Olga Escamilla, and I'm going to be the host and technical support today. Our first presenter is Jasmine Grabowski, and Jasmine is passionate about serving others. She has a background in teaching, and she recently served with the Summer Earn and Learn program, and she is a graduate of Texas State University. She has a BA in German and earned a job coach certification from University of North Texas Workplace Inclusion and Sustainable Employment Program in 2019. Her goal is to continue supporting her community by helping adults and students reach their fullest potential. So welcome, Jasmine. We also have Victoria Hinojosa. Victoria specializes in training and educating community partners, workforce solution staff, and job seekers throughout the 13-county region. She served over 8 years at Texas State University Career Services Center as a recruiting coordinator, preparing college students for workforce. She's a graduate of Texas State University with a BA in mass communications. So welcome.
Yes, I'm
here. Take it away. Great.
Okay, great.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here. And here we go. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's so good to see everyone again. Thank you, Olga, for that great introduction. So we want to welcome you to Workforce Wednesday Table Talk, Social Media Part 2, The Employer's Perspective. So if you were with us back in November when we gave our social media teaching about its impact webinar, we interviewed our own social media expert, Tiffany Armington, to gain insight on how to use social media in a job search and use it to build a professional brand as a job seeker. We got some great tips, but we also learned that social media isn't the free speech zone many people believe it to be. I think that, we figured out that what you or your friends do post on social media can and will be held against you. So the term privacy doesn't really mean private, because with people search engines like Pipple, there's no limit to what employers can find, and there are no federal laws or state laws in Texas that prevent employers from requesting to see or gain access to your private social media accounts. So honestly, this left us a little unsettled, or in my case, a little freaked out. So Jasmine and I decided to ask employers how they incorporate social media in their recruiting and vetting processes, and to find out how deep do they actually dig into social media to learn about potential hires. So our objectives today are, we want to learn how employers are going to use social media in their recruiting and hiring processes, and then give you some tools that you can use back in the classroom to teach your students the impact of perception in their social media posts. And then lastly, discover what are some of the best social media platforms for job searching and how to utilize them to build and promote a professional image. So now we'd like to start to introduce some of our panelists. So we've invited 3 human resource recruiters from different industries to be part of our discussion today. And again, we've planned this to be a very interactive webinar, so please feel free to use the chat box. And now we're going to go ahead and introduce our first panelist. Jasmine, will you do the honors?
Yes, thank you so much, Victoria. So our first panelist is Miss Tia Shorty. She has been recruiting for over 20 years in the healthcare and oil and gas industries. She has recruited multiple professions from nurses to engineers throughout her career, and found her true career passion in university recruitment. She currently recruits college students for CVS, but the ultimate highlight of her career is saying, "We would like to offer you a position." So welcome, Ms. Tia Shorty.
Excellent. Welcome, Tia. And our next panelist is Pernell Davis, who is the Senior Director over Administrative Services, which includes Human Resources, Risk Management, and Community Workforce Development for Harris County Commissioner Precinct 2. He has 13 years of experience in human resources and has hired employees for government jobs at the city and county levels, as well as law enforcement. He has also recruited positions for DenCorp and McDonald's. Mr. Davis attended the University of Houston, where he received his bachelor's in political science and then went on to receive his master's in public administration at Sam Houston State University. So welcome, Pernell Davis. We are so glad to have you with us today. He's representing U of H. All right. Excellent. And lastly,
Yes, I was just waiting for you, Q. Yeah, so no, that's okay. So our third and final panelist is Ms. Raven Watson. She is the president of At Work Personnel Services Northwest. Ms. Watson has over 16 years of staffing experience and is commonly known as a veteran within the staffing industry. She works closely with her client customers on attracting and retaining top talent in the marketplace all throughout Houston. She's an active member of the Greater Houston Partnerships Regional Economic and Development Advisory Committee and has made local and national presentations for many professional groups, most recently with the Houston Northwest Chamber of Commerce on reducing turnover and increasing productivity in the workplace and employment crisis due to COVID. She received her bachelor's degree in computer science from Alabama A&M University. And Ms. Watson is a true visionary that lives to be of service to others. She truly embodies the At Work motto of being at work for you every day. Welcome, Ms. Watson.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get started. We've got a couple of questions we're going to start off with. So our first question to our panelists is this: how do you use social media to recruit and vet job candidates? And which platforms do you use? There we go. Now you can see the question. So again, how do you use social media to recruit and vet job candidates, and which platforms do you use?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Go right ahead.
For the positions that I recruit for, I usually recruit for pharmacists as well as retail store managers. And so I usually use LinkedIn is my preference when it comes to vetting out candidates. So I always look at that as a professional. It's a way for you to build your professional brand. So that is always my go-to.
Excellent.
I'll piggyback to T as well. So we are a full service staffing firm. So we're recruiting for lots of customers, sometimes 40 different clients with a lot of different positions. So we use LinkedIn first as a professional platform. And then we also utilize Facebook. We watched in 2020, after the pandemic hit, we watched our social media recruiting numbers increase by over 50% year over year before. I mean, a lot of the candidate attraction for our essential workers came from Facebook.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'll agree with both Raven and Tia. We utilize LinkedIn for professional positions and also Facebook primarily as well.
So do you ever use other platforms like Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram?
You know what? We have some millennial recruiters that have recently twisted my arm and convinced me that Instagram works. So believe it or not, they've actually found positions for some of our hospitals that support the kitchen staff from Instagram and even Snapchat. My mind was blown. So yes.
Really? Okay. Okay. So it sounds like then social media is, recruiting is starting to expand. Maybe for some of your essential workers or your entry level positions, not necessarily the more C-suite positions, but it sounds like for everybody else, it's starting to expand. Fascinating. I wonder what that looks like. I can't imagine recruiting on Snapchat. How are you doing that?
That would be interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can visualize this yet, but okay. All right. Whatever works, I suppose. All right, so let's move on to the next question.
All right, so that's me. What percentage of employees do you recruit via social media each year? And then there's a two-part question. What job levels are recruited via social media? And you guys can just give me like an estimate. Give us an estimate if that works too.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and kind of talk about that. So for my positions, I may not need to always go on to social media to find folks just because CVS is a very large company. So sometimes it's easy that the application, the pool in the pipeline I have is just because of the name itself. You know, being a Fortune 5 company, it's very easy that people want, especially being a pharmacy-based company. We have a lot of pharmacists that know they would want to work for CVS, or there's internships and things like that. However, with the retail management, that's something that's pretty new right now. So we don't have a lot of people who are very interested in retail management. So again, it's still reaching out on LinkedIn and using that tool to kind of talk about and promote the positions that we do have available, because again, it is a professional position. So I definitely would say probably, I'm going to say 75% just comes from people knowing who CVS is, and the other 25% is me having to go and find those type of candidates. And sometimes those are your executive level or C-suite positions.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, actually, I had some students I was working with a couple of summers ago, and they were actually doing a program through CVS, and I had to go check up on them. So it seems to be very popular, those partnerships and internships with CVS. So thank you.
Okay, so I know Pernell and Raven, do you guys have some statistics on percentage of employees that you're recruiting? Raven, you started to mention some.
Yeah, so we did look at the number of applicants we got via our ATS and job boards versus what we got through social media. And so last year, all of our essential workers, and these are employees that are required to be in a workplace, in a facility, physically being there, and they cannot do the job from home. We watched essential employees, the number recruited, or the percentage recruited, 60% of those came from social media. 2019 versus 2020 was an increase of over 25% the year prior. And so executive level positions, management, skilled positions, professions, a lot of those positions came by way of LinkedIn, but the percentage wasn't as high, although we had jobs posted on LinkedIn. 20% of them came from LinkedIn. The rest came by way of referral or ATS. So, which is interesting because 2019, social media was really making a footing in the professional workplace and also in the everyday workplace, regardless of your skill. But 2020 took off because I think so many different trifectas happened in 2020.
Right.
That makes sense.
Real quick, what is ATS?
Applicant tracking system. So most companies that have a hiring process, whether it's a formalized recruitment or talent acquisition team, typically rely on their ATS to post their jobs. And then those keywords match whether they intentionally apply to the job or unintentionally apply to the position. And the ATS triggers the process for the applicant.
Oh, very good.
Just
So
quickly.
Go ahead, Pernell. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, just quickly for us, Harris County Precinct 2, I'm actually finding out that more than 70% of our employees, new employees last year, were recruited through social media, that being Facebook or LinkedIn. If there were executive level positions, we primarily went to LinkedIn. That was because of the pandemic. We weren't able to attend job fairs and really have much interaction face to face. So the recruiting team my staff actually went forward with social media and having conversations with candidates through those platforms.
So do you think that that's going to continue, once the pandemic is over? Do you think that as far as recruiting or as far as finding job applicants, I mean, I know LinkedIn seems to be the standard for the more professional and skilled labor, but what about the essential workers that we discussed? You think, Raven, what do you think?
A lot of companies have pivoted for so many different reasons. I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago with the Greater Houston Partnership where we had a lot of the corporate giants in the city of Houston report back how they've officially determined that they no longer need certain skills because they were able to kind of make it through the pandemic. So I do think that a lot of companies have pivoted, and because they pivoted, the way that we attract talent will look very different than it what has before. I actually believe, I love the recruiting industry, whether you're a corporate recruiter or you're recruiting for an agency. I like it because we deal with people, but I think the pandemic has created an opportunity to fill a void. I think so long we thought we had to have in-person job fairs, and we recognize that there's so many other ways of connecting with people through social media. So I do think it's here to stay. I think there are a couple of companies that I've heard of that have actually created their own little social media site. Indeed is one of them. And I do think we're going to see more of this happen in the next 5 years.
Meaning that these platforms are going to create their own job search.
They are, yes.
Fairs.
So right now there is a social aspect community on Indeed. If you're on Indeed, you can connect your Facebook, LinkedIn, and I don't know if you can connect to Instagram, but those two sites I know you can connect and have some type of community sense on Indeed, but it's through your social media channels. So now they've also created their own social media channel to try to attract more people that are in the job search or even in a profession where you want to give advice. I'm one of the founding advisors that they reached out in April and said, hey, we see you putting content out there that's helping people. Could we also pick your brain? And so I said, yes, but this is something that's continuing.
Wow. Great to know. New trends to look forward to. Okay, great. Okay. So thank you guys. Excellent first round. Now we've got a poll that we want to give to our audience. So the question that we have for our audience is, what is the top social media concern that you've heard from students? And you've got a list there. Is it privacy concerns about social media? Is it developing a personal brand? Or is it being tainted by association from what other people are posting and tagging you into? Is it separating your personal from your professional persona? Are people having difficulties doing that? Or is it being scammed by fraudulent job postings? What are your concerns? Or what do you hear that are concerns from your students? Looks like we've got a lot going on here. So
the poll is on the screen. There's about 18 people out of 28 that have responded. So if you haven't responded to the poll, please do so. We do have a couple of other categories, Victoria, none that anyone has mentioned. And then other, but we don't have anybody that can think of another. So right now we're at 21 out of 28.
So what do you think, Jasmine? What's your biggest concern?
For me, I do have social media. I'm very active on social media. But you know, I try to watch what I post. I don't post anything too outlandish, but I think, you know, some of my friends, some of my classmates from Texas State, I don't know what they're posting. I have a lot of friends from Texas State on my social media. So mine would be being tarnished by what they may be posting because, you know, they're my classmates. They're still my friends. So that would be my personal concern. If I'm job searching, I'm not going to be that concerned if I'm not job searching.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's the honest truth.
well, there you go. So hang on to that job, right?
Yes, for sure. So, all right.
it looks like the poll is closed. So it looks like that we've got the lead is the biggest concern is being able to separate your personal persona from your professional one, which is excellent because I know we've got some great we're going to get into that with some activities, and then also definitely with some tips from our employers a little bit later on in this program. So thank you so much for answering this poll, and let's move on because we've got another couple of questions that are going to help to flesh this out for everybody. So Jasmine, I think you got the next question.
Yes, ma'am. The next question is, what kind of information found on social media disqualifies a candidate?
Who wants to take that one?
I'll take it safely.
Okay.
You know, it's so many different. For me, it's the way I answer this question is I answer it sort of as a PR kind of frame of reference. And what I mean by PR is my goal is to, because we represent so many other companies, not just one, my goal is to protect first my company brand, but also my clients. If I have a customer that cares about certain things, then there could, if someone is posting inappropriate pictures at a party and that's consistent, then that might be consistent with their character. And if that's going to damage our client's brand, then we would definitely make that as a kind of a no-brainer as to walk away from that candidate for the opportunity. So if there's, I don't have a clear, okay, there's a no-go, I would never consider this person if I saw this on social media. It's obviously open for conversation and discussions, because I think that pictures are just one part of what you think they are, your first immediate thought, but sometimes pictures can be definitely misconstrued and not always the actual reality or truth of that person. But we're going to have a conversation about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I know.
Pernell?
I agree completely with what Raven said. You know, our priority is to protect the brand of Harris County. As an employee, we represent 500 employees within Precinct 2. Harris County, there are over 17,000 employees.
Wow.
In addition to that, you know, when you're posting something on social media, I think candidates should be prepared to have conversations about it, especially if they're coming into Harris County and violate one of the 7 protective classes. So I can't say that we will actually disqualify you, but it can open up conversation.
Tia, did you have any comments?
No, I agree with Raven and Pernell 100%. Like, I don't think there's anything that will disqualify them unless there's something that they actually have, like a HIPAA violation or something of that sort that they've done before, or that's the only thing I would say that disqualifies, because at that point, you're breaking the law, but nothing that I can really think would just disqualify them immediately.
Okay, excellent. So, Jasmine, I think there was a comment in the chat box.
Yes, I was just going to say there's a comment in the chat box from Carol Vandiver. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And her comment is, I'm just going to read it. I have been amazed that the majority of my students are stunned when I tell them that a future employer will look at their social media before they ever ask for an interview or schedule an interview. So that's her comment.
So I see Raven nodding her head. Yeah, we do this. So
We do, you know, I actually was going to tell you, we finished a search. We have an executive search division, and we just finished a search for a vice president of marketing for a customer. And it's been a search that's kind of gone on for a while, because this company is very particular about wanting industry experience, but not an immediate or direct competitor. Long story short, the person that we found, we really thought this was the ace in the hole. And they go through this series of interviews, round robin interviews, and the final interviews with the CEO of the company. And the CEO of the company had his calendar, his phone out, and his college daughter saw his calendar for the next day and saw the name and goes, that name really rings a bell. Well, of course, and I have to rely on my kids to show me too. So of course, this teenager or college student, she started to think, how do I know this name? Long story short, she, I don't know if she shared it with other people or whatever, but she found her social media channel because this person is a heavy influencer in social media.
Oh.
But what they found was absolutely contradictory to what they need in the organization, particularly for that position. It's a marketing position. So long story short, of course, they didn't hire that person. And we're back to ground zero. So one of the things that we said, okay, we're going to do differently next time is just to take into account the social media channels. But companies will look, will they outright say we're not going to hire you because of this? No, because you can't. But that is an assessment. So it's a mental call, which I know later on you're going to do some really great exercises to help the instructors see how the judgment is existent. It's there, especially if you have information that is posing who you are before someone even gets an opportunity to know you.
So, you know, I'm going to bring this question up because we kind of skirted around it, but I know in our last webinar, we discovered that, you know, there are no state laws or federal laws preventing employers from actually saying, hey, I want to look at your social media. Is that something that you guys have done or do? I mean, is that okay? I'm getting a few nods. So anybody want to elaborate on that?
And if I caught the question, do we actually look at the social media? Is that the question?
Yes. I mean, have
So-
you in an interview situation where you're still vetting a candidate, have you actually been in a position where, yes, we need to look at your social media accounts?
For me, I'll say yes. Depending upon the position, we will automatically look at the social media account. If you're going into accounting, communications or media relations or community relations, those types of positions that may be executive level positions, we're certainly going to look at your social media. There may be something inside of the interview when we're having a conversation to find out more about your skills that will trigger me to go and look at your social media platform to see just how you are as a person. What are you doing personally? Because you weren't able to express that. We want to make sure that our employees have a quality of life, certainly when they work for us, because that makes them more happy. That increases morale within the organization as well. And sometimes people are not great interviewers, right? So we want to find out more about that person and see how we can help bring that into our company. We look at it from a standpoint, do we want the Chick-fil-A model or the McDonald's model? For us, we want the Chick-fil-A model that's always clean, friendly, fast, and it's always quality of food. If you go to one of the other brands, it's probably not consistent with the service that we want to provide. So that's why we would actually go to the social media platforms to just find out more about candidates.
I like that analogy. Thanks. Good job.
Yeah, I want to say, Pernell, you nailed it. That's exactly it. You completely nailed it. I agree 100%. And it tells you the tone of someone's life.
So so I'm assuming there have been situations like, as you mentioned, Raven, that you've looked into people's accounts and like, okay, you're not who we thought you were, so we're going to have to pass on you. I'm assuming that there are those circumstances. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting some nods. Okay, all right.
Actually, you know what? Something that I mentor some teenagers in an organization that I'm in, and I have to continue to remind them, you can't delete this. You think you can, but it's still there. If someone shared it, liked it, or touched it, it's there somewhere else. It may not be on your page, but it still exists.
Right. And so if you've got those search engines, like the one that freaked me out last time called Pipple, that can find everything, then it's going to pop back up, right? So there again, you have to be mindful of what you put out there, even though you erase it. Like you said, if someone's touched it, I mean, even Snapchat, I think it may be gone from your files, but it's still out there on the big World Wide Web. So someone can find it. So it's not as safe as people want it to be. Think that, okay, yeah, it's just instant, it's here right now and it's gone tomorrow. But no, it still has a life out there somewhere. And the more aggressive these search engines are becoming, the more likely it's going to be found. So here's this cartoon that we've got up on the screen right now. I just loved it because I thought it was just really funny when Jasmine found this. And it's so in order to prevent this from happening to your students, we would like to share our social media rubric with you. This is something that you can download from the chat box. Olga is going to post it in our chat box for you right now. It's our social media rubric, and you can take this and use this with your students. So we're going to go over this right now.
All righty. Thank you, Victoria. So basically the rubric has a positive sharing and negative sharing sections, excuse me. And so if your students are posting work experience, work-related skills, interpersonal skills, then that's gonna count as positive sharing. And then of course, if it's like more high school students, of course your students are in college, but just as an example, if they have volunteer experience, they can add that on their career goals. If they've belonged to any organizations or even professional organizations, all that counts as positive sharing. And so they would tally up those points. But for negative sharing, of course, politics, religion, news, and I'm one of those people, sometimes I do get caught up in, I like to watch the news a lot. So sometimes I do post things about the news, but according to this rubric, that is considered negative sharing. And so this is something that your students can definitely use as a go-to when they're posting, especially in the job search. And so that's kind of how it works. And even flaming by name. So basically attacking somebody's character, attacking somebody else's image. especially on social media. I mean, we see it all the time, but again, that would fall under the negative sharing. And as you can see, it's -4 points. And so definitely something that they can use and just hold on to as a resource.
Okay, Jasmine, before we go on to the next slide that shows more about this, we want to get our employers' take on this rubric. What do you think about this? This is something that we at in the Gulf Coast region, we've been using this rubric with our students and with our classes. But tell me, I want to hear it from you guys, the employers. What do you think?
I think this is a very, very good rubric. You know, just speaking with even my own children with social media, just being very careful. And this is, you know, even outside of, you know, searching for employment, even universities out here are actually going onto social media as well. So these are like very good points. I love the positives and I love the negatives as well, especially when it comes to, you know, I think Jasmine mentioned about politics. Like I always have something to say on my social media about something, and it's nothing crazy, but you know, sometimes I try to stay away from it because it can be a little, you know, dicey on who's going to pick it up a certain way, whether negative or positive. So kind of stay away from it, as well as religion. And so those are kind of like the first part, which is the negative one. But those are things that we probably don't even think much about, and we just kind of post it just because it's out there. But definitely, you know, with alcohol, guns, violence, that's something that I think anyone, whether it's a university or if it's someone searching for employment or employers are looking at, that you definitely don't want to have that type of image or branding behind you. So I think this is perfect to kind of map it out, and for everyone to kind of look at this and seeing. And I probably have some negatives on mine as well. I probably need to go and change some things on my social media. So I'm just saying this is a very good map of how you should look at your social media.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to jump in and just add to that. Tia is spot on again. I thought of something as we were looking at this. Actually, I have a resume to the left of me, and I decided to go to their LinkedIn page. And I don't know, but I'm sure everyone knows what this month is. It's International Women's Month. And so there's a big fun, which I love, it's going viral, our Choose to Challenge, and it's a lot of Choose to Challenge. So there's someone that I follow and I highly respect that is a giant. And he did this beautiful post. And so as I'm looking at this rubric, I'm thinking, these positives and negatives, if you think of it, they bring out emotion in all of us. So there's this post that I saw by this big giant, Mark Cuban, who I really just adore him. And so, but he put this post about a Choose a Challenge, and in it, I decided to go to the person that he tagged. And the person he tagged, I started looking through their LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that they do a lot of give back. Majority of the things that they do, they're serving others. And of course, I do not know this person. And it just made me smile as I looked and I thought, oh, I really like this person. I would like to get to know them. So I think too, we have to help our students and people coming into the workplace recognize that the positive sharing is also that feeling that people get when they reference you. And also LinkedIn, whatever you touch and like and comment on, people can look at your profile and look at all of your activity, and they can see that whether it was a negative share or a positive share.
That's really interesting. And I even think about just really quick, just the interview that just came out about Harry and Meghan Markle, and you see all these negative posts, you have so many different opinions. I think even with that, probably have to be careful because of it can get very political, but that's like the big thing right now. Like people are walking off of jobs because of what Meghan Markle said, you know, in an interview, and you just see all these posts and different opinions. And it's just mind-boggling, the power of social media, just to piggyback off of what you said too.
And I want to make one more comment.
Oh, yes.
So in a negative, under -3, spelling, grammar errors. So I look at my kids, and my kids are like 22 and 19, right? So they are in this age of trying to get employment. And one of the things is just going in there, reading some of their comments. Instead of saying you are, it's you are, like the letter U and R. So everything is like, I have to like kind of figure out what they're saying just by, I guess, the way they're coding words, or
Yes.
like an initial for a whole sentence, or, you know, so.
Yeah, all the acronyms and
right?
IDK.
Yes, so, you know, being careful with that. And what I've noticed is that when they're texting me, when they're writing, I was going over my daughter's, one of her essays, and I'm like, you have so many errors as far as the spelling, because now you're spelling the way you are texting as you are on your social media. So be very careful with that. And I think now it's almost second nature or first nature for them to still type in that way. So
Yes,
something that they should be very careful about as well.
that's a valid point, because that is beginning to be a problem. I've been hearing that from educators too, like they're writing essays like they're texting their friends. So yeah, that's good.
Professional emails too, and that's you can't do that. The way it's like texting and social media has developed its own language, its own written code of language, really. And I know that's something that when you're working with young professionals, you have to fight against it. So no, I need you to make complete sentences, please, and I need your email. I mean, you have to actually sit them down and teach them what is a professional email. What does this look like?
Because you have to. And I'm sorry, and just an example, I was driving and my son, I said, listen, my boss is texting me. He needs to know this. I need you to text while I'm driving. So he's texting, and my manager, I come in on Monday, and he's like, he's laughing. And I'm like, what? He's like, was that your son? You know, texting me, I want you to see this text. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't my son. Everything, it was an acronym. And so, so watch out for that, because now companies are starting to do texting you to set up interviews, or texting you to talk a little bit more about yourself. And so those are opportunities that they'll look at and see that you have a lot of errors in your spelling.
Wow. That's
interesting. I'm so glad we talked to you today. Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else want to comment?
Okay. I think Raven and Tia are spot on. I love to hear them talk. You know, they should be on CNN or MSNBC. They're probably the best to give us the truth on anything. So I appreciate them too.
Excellent. So Jasmine, there is a part B to this rubric. So let's talk about that one.
Yes. So basically, this is a social media rubric. It's kind of the part 2 of the other image that you guys just saw. And so if I was using this rubric and I end up having, you know, a certain number of points, like if I have under -2 points, then that's considered negative. So basically I'd have to pretty much, you know, start all over. As you can see, -8 points or lower is do over. Well, no, if I have a -2, then, you know, it says tip scales back with positive sharing. And we do have an acronym. We're going to get that. We're going to get into that a little bit later down the line. It's called the THINK acronym. And that's something that your students can use as they are sharing, specifically if they're job searching. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. But basically, again, this is kind of a summary of the previous image as far as the social media rubric rating. And so again, by all means, hold on to this, or if you want to take a picture of this, instructors, by all means, you can do so at this time.
But I think we've got the complete rubric is in the chat box, so you should be able to get that.
Mm-hmm. And we have some comments. Very valuable information to share with my grandchildren. Very well. Great points from Omar. And we have a question. Just curious, how far back do you look on an applicant's social media page? From Fredia Thomas. Would anybody like to answer that question?
For me, I'm not going back very far. Some candidates can put a lot of stuff on there. I mean, if you go back within the last day or 2 or 3 or so, I think that's more than enough to really find out about that person and what they're putting out there. And that's only one of the tools in conjunction with other things to really evaluate that candidate, I think. So I think also for me, I want to be careful with infringing on a person's First Amendment right. You
Right.
do have the right to free speech to post certain things, but I think we still have to be cautious of who that potential audience is when we're posting things as well. So we have to take those things into consideration, but I'm not
Oh,
going
no.
past probably 3 days or so.
I'll jump in on that question as well.
Oh, yes.
So what I was going to say is we don't, I mean, first off, the recruiters that work here, they're not really like digging that far back. However, something to kind of keep in mind and to share with your students is they have to consider that the algorithm for every social media site is being updated consistently. And what that means is, for example, Facebook. If I chose to look for one of your beautiful faces on Facebook and you don't share much of anything, there are certain pictures that I will be able to see. It doesn't matter if it was a year ago, a day ago, or 10 years ago, based on their algorithms. And I don't study social media algorithms, so I can't tell you what they look like. But my point is most employers won't take time to dig really, really deep. And you just have to be very cautious and very smart in the message that you send outwards. I tell my children, which I only have one that's really old enough to be on social media, and we guard what she's allowed to get on. But my rule of thumb with her is whatever you post, your mother, your father, your great, great, great grandparents who are no longer here have to be super proud of you of whatever it looks like. So I think just having a healthy balance or rule of thumb can help everyone stay safe.
Thank you very much. And those are all good points. I like that healthy balance. And thank you, Pernell, for what you shared as well.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi decided to turn off when the AC came on. So let's let's continue on. So we're going to do a little activity now with our audience as well. So here's what we're going to do. Let's say that you are the hiring manager for Delta Airlines. And I'm talking to our audience. You guys are the hiring manager for Delta Airlines. And you've got 4 candidates that you've interviewed that are fantastic. They look fabulous on paper. They interviewed well in the first round, but you can only submit 2 more. You can only submit 2 out of the 4 to the next round of interviews. You've done some digging on social media and you've discovered that there are some red flags. So we're going to show you each of the 4 candidates and the red flag that came up on social media for them. And we want to get your opinion from the employer's perspective. You're the hiring manager. Would you would you advance this person to the next round and potentially hire this candidate? You get to choose. So tell us which one you think. So here's candidate number 1. What do you think of her? Okay. Is this a problem? Is this picture? What do you think of this picture?
Okay.
Employers, you feel free to weigh in on this as well.
Okay, now I see some things coming into the chat. Olga said I would need more information. William said she's obviously having a great time. Tasha, depends on the caption. Catherine, too much alcohol. And Olga said, what job are they applying for?
Well, again, she's applying for the customer service manager for Delta Airlines at Houston Intercontinental Airport.
Okay. Let's see. Not sure. She looks happy. Not a problem. Could be apple juice. Need more. A lot of people are saying they need more information. They need some more background information on this applicant.
Okay.
I'm getting a lot of that.
Excellent. And employers, what do you think?
I would definitely say look like she's a happy person. I probably would not judge her as far as for any positions that I have, even as a pharmacist or a retail store manager. I would not look at her any different from carrying on with the interview or even giving her an offer.
Okay.
Okay. Someone else said, I don't know. She said, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name, Ma Isabel. She said, I don't really know what to say on her.
Okay. Okay. Raven, it sounds like you had a comment.
No, actually, I was going to agree. So with this picture, she's smiling, she's holding wine and possibly apple juice. I like whoever said that. And so we don't know. She could be giving that to someone else. This picture doesn't really tell a complete story. So I definitely think this would probably warrant maybe looking at something else or understanding what the opportunity is to see if there's something repetition behind it. This is one of those where it's like, maybe, okay, that's -1 in terms of a points. But it's not something that I would immediately say, no, not the candidate. I would still keep her in the running and consider her and just see if there's anything that could possibly be habitual down the road.
Okay. And Olga said, I would look a bit further back to see if there is a pattern of drinking. And someone else said, Frida Thomas said, grape juice.
Grape juice. Okay. Grape juice and apple juice. There we go. Very good. All right. So let's take a look at candidate number 2. This one gets a little racy for me. So I would have to do more digging on this one and see what else comes up for this candidate. But what do you guys think?
What state does she reside in? No offer. William said no offer. Hugo said no problem. That's all we have so far.
Oh, okay. Tia, Raven, do you have anything to comment on this?
It looks like a cigarette to me, so I can't really say, but I do know working like for a healthcare system, we do ask that, no one, that we don't want smokers. Let me say that. We would not like to have smokers because when we're promoting, healthcare, we're promoting health, and cigarettes, as we know, are not healthy. And CVS, one of their biggest, I would say, our highlights is that we took cigarettes from out of all of our stores. So we used to sell cartons of cigarettes, so you can no longer get those type of things. But
Wow.
We will not discriminate against someone who is smoking, but we will ask for like a cessation plan. And then, of course, we do have different benefits. If you are a non-smoker, that you do get, different discounts for being a non-smoker on your benefits. So no, I would not, say I would not offer her a position, but, I would look at things a little differently and just ask her a few questions more about her smoking and just probably reiterate that we're a smoking company.
There were some great comments on here.
Yeah. Well, I was
Some
going to
people
say
have
it's
said,
clear no for me because that when you zoom in closer, it looks like a marijuana to me. So, and majority of my clients do drug and backgrounds. So, and she's posting that, so that says that there may be something more. So for me, it would be clear no.
yeah.
I want
Okay.
to jump in just really quickly.
Yeah.
I agree with both Raven and Tia. However, for me, our policy as the county, we are smoke-free facilities, right? However, it's open to a conversation like Tia said, but I wouldn't just judge this picture in total, because I've noticed in law enforcement, when I've recruited in law enforcement, it can very well be a bugler, where someone has been incarcerated, for example, they actually utilize tobacco that they can roll up just like marijuana. So it has some of the similar appearance to it. So I would be careful in judging this picture in total without having a conversation.
Okay.
And
All right.
Pernell, I would like to say, I think before you said that you would kind of wait for the drug screen to come in.
Yep.
And that person out as well before.
I would wait for the judge. There again, those different evaluation tools, the background check, the drug screen. With the previous picture, there was, alcohol that was existing there, but it looks like she's a social person. But I want to see now the background check of the drug test to show if there's a pattern. Do we have a number of DWIs previously? Now let's have a conversation of what we're doing to correct these habits that may be existing in this person, for this person as a candidate.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. And we have some more comments in the chat. Let's see here. We have Charmaine, again, not something I would share online. Olga said, I would look on the application to see if this person stated that they smoked. Delisa said, no digging required for me. I have seen enough. Isabel said, not good. Tiffany, no offer. And Olga said, patients don't want to smell smoker's breath when being helped by a nurse.
All right. Here's another one. So what do you look at this one? Remember, she is going up this is a customer service manager position for Delta Airlines at a major airport. what do you think of this posting? Tia, what do you think? You're starting to
I
laugh.
would definitely say this is a no, because customer service is basically in every aspect of our life, personal and professionally, right? So we always have to have interaction with people at some point. And so this is a clear indication that this person does not have great customer service. And so I would definitely say no to this.
I'm laughing. Jasmine, what's in the chat box?
Okay, let's see. No, Gloria said no. Tasha said caption is offending and nervous about how she would respond in the workplace. William said laughing out loud. Come on now. Lorraine said no. Charmaine, sorry, completely unprofessional. Paul said no. She shows an attitude.
I think she lost the customer service position here.
Yeah.
She's
Felisa also said absolutely not.
she's even tagged her employer on this one. This is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Grounds for termination, forget hiring.
Right? Okay. Okay, so and we've got our last one, and this was a post. What would you think about this one?
No, Gloria said no. Thalisa said no. Tiffany said no. Everybody, yeah. Romel, no. Juanita said no. Hugo said no. Not interested.
Okay, well, but hey, wait a minute though. This is somebody's personal opinion, and this was a personal post. Employers, you want to weigh in on this one? Raven,
Yeah,
Pernell, Tia?
Sure, yeah. I'd like to weigh in on this one. For this one, so the question we have to remember, the question is, would we hire the person if we saw this post? So based on this post, I would not make a hiring decision for or against the person. It's their opinion. I saw a lot of it last year, and I'm still friends with a lot of people that had posts like this or different. It's their opinion. It's not directly damaging a company employer brand. Now, if someone is like Pernell, if he were recruiting for someone that has constituents that are going to be very offended, then I think he should say no, but I'll let you speak to that. So for this,
No, Raven, you're spot on. It opens up for conversation. Everything, like I said, we can talk about. I think I wouldn't make the hiring decision solely on this. And if it doesn't violate one of those 7 protective classes, I'm probably not as concerned. The last one, it violated one of those 7 protective classes as far as discriminating against individuals, right? So I'm really more concerned. But here, it's just simply a conversation to see if I can find out more information about this post.
Tia, do you have any other additional comments on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Raven and Pernell. I would not say this is something that would concern me about the applicant at all. It's on their personal page, and they have a right to, freedom of speech. So it would not, I wouldn't question anything about the person.
Okay.
I just wanted to say something because I know we have instructors listening. What Pernell said is I think why all 3 of us are very consistent in agreement is because of the protective 7 classes. And so this is it's freedom of speech, it's an opinion, but it doesn't hit any of those 7 categories. I think it's important, I don't know if the presentation is going to be shown to students, but I think it's important to help them recognize, is it okay to post stuff like this? No, you need to keep it to yourself. But in terms of potential employers utilizing this and making a hiring decision, more than likely they would not be firm on saying yes or no for this.
Jasmine, you want to read the chat box?
Yeah, so we have, let's see here. Hold on a second. Okay, Olga said, do you think they will be more professional in person and are just outspoken on social media? That's a good one.
I definitely say yes. I call them keyboard cowards, right? So you have some keyboard cowards that will really go in and say some things on social media that they would never say to a person face to face. I do think that people have, if you think about it, most people are good people, right? They have their opinions. So with that being said, you have a right to your opinions. And if it's on a personal page, that's your right, and I think you can utilize it. Just be careful because you just don't know who you're going to offend. And as we spoke before, and Jasmine has spoken, in Raven, that everything is traceable. So you may have some employers that may not like that. Not everyone's going to be Tia, Raven, and Purnell. There's some folks that will say, no, I am not hiring this person. And it's nothing that I would have any type of light bulb of concern about at all. I don't think that this person would probably carry this into the workplace, but of course, I've never had that conversation with the person, but I'm going to assume that most people are good people. I know most people are good people, and I think it won't carry on into the workplace.
I think to just add to what Tia is saying, something that we can look at as an example is recent events in Washington. Many of those individuals existed within our organizations, and we've never seen probably them demonstrate the behaviors that we see in Washington. And unfortunately, in some cases, social media caught them up and caused them to lose their job and charges to be filed against them and things of that nature. So there again, for me, this would have to just have a conversation. And if it doesn't reach that extreme point, they may still be able to be within the organization or looked at as a candidate for a position.
I agree. Perfect
Okay.
example.
Yeah, I think people have taken things a little far recently. And as long as you're not, this guy's not committing any crimes like what we saw in Washington. This is just his opinion, his outrage because the election didn't go his way. So everybody has moments of that. Everybody says things. It's just that when you put it out there on social media, it tends to kind of reverberate and the waves just keep going. And the problem is that, if you're just, if you're an entry level person, this may not have an impact on your job too much. But when you are a little bit higher up in the ranks, then this is really you could have some serious damage to your career as a result of something like this. I know, we're not really getting into the details of the people that we've been looking at, but all of them, the reason why I even have their posts is because they lost their jobs due to these posts. So it's just, you just don't know what kind of message you're sending out or how it's going to affect you, even when it's just a moment of, this is just, how I feel right now. Take a breath, think before you post. Speaking of which, let's go on to this. Think before you post. Jasmine, this is perfect introduction into this acronym that you spoke about earlier.
Yes. So basically, again, this is for the instructors. You can share this with your students just to use as a best practice before they post anything, really, especially, again, to reiterate in the job search process. I think that makes a huge difference. If they already have a job, then, I think there can be a little bit leeway, but if they're actively looking for jobs and if recruiters are looking at their social media, I think that this can be very beneficial. And so it's super easy. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? And N, is it necessary? I think that one is very, I really like that one personally.
Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it necessary?
Is it necessary? Yeah, I really like that one. And then K, is it kind? So by all means, share this with your students. Let them know that this is something that they can use, again, as a best practice before they post anything, and that just kind of keeps them on their P's and Q's, basically. And if anybody else wants to share anything pertaining to this, by all means.
Well, and Purnell, you just wrote something in the chat box that I think is really an important thing to state.
Yeah, those were the 7 protective classes. I saw someone's chat, so I tried to type them very quickly. So race, color, religion, sex, gender, age.
Right, very good.
What I missed there.
And disability. No, I think you got them all. Very good. But still, we all have moments of passion. We all have moments where we're feeling outraged or, we're upset about something. Think, even humor. Sometimes we think something is funny, but you have to be really careful because this guy, he only sent it to his little circle, but somebody caught wind of it, thought it was outrageous, took a picture of it, and it went viral. So you just never know. You never know what's going to happen, who's going to see it, and how it's going to take a life of its own. And this guy had a really big position at a university and he ended up resigning. And it just, you have to stop and think, I like that. Is it necessary? Is it kind? No, it wasn't a very kind post. That was pretty nasty. But, you know, again, we all have those moments
Yeah.
of madness. So that we regret instantly later. So anyway, okay.
Victoria,
Yeah.
Frida had a comment that she said, I think many people post things because they feel it will generate likes or go viral, not realizing the consequences or damage it could cause.
That's true. That's a good point too. I mean, everybody wants their moment of fame, but it's you have to be smart about it. You really do. If you're trying to become an influencer, you want to do it in a positive light, not in a negative light. Or else, you know, it's really hard to sustain a career as a negative influencer. You know, there's very few people that are, you know, out there that are that can get away with doing something like that. Okay. So we're going to move on to our next question to the employers. So let's ask this one. How important is a social media presence during a job search?
I'll take this first.
Okay.
I believe it's important. Your social media presence has become the new resume, if you will. And the presence doesn't always have to be on the specific platform, but just being relevant, being exposed on some level is important, especially for LinkedIn. Before I actually have a new hire that's here today, but before I hired her, I did look her up on LinkedIn. And I looked to see what people said about her, your recommendations, those kind of things. So I do think it's important to have a social media presence. Even right now, I have a ninth grader. She learned last summer, she went to a camp that was presented by Duke. Duke University selected a certain amount of high school or middle school students to go into this program to prepare for high school. And they taught them how to create LinkedIn profiles. And when she asked me if she can go get a headshot, I thought, why would you need a headshot? And she told me, I was surprised. I'm thinking, you're just going into ninth grade. Why do you need LinkedIn? But that's happening more so because that is your version of a resume, you think of it. So social media presence is important when you're doing a job search for lots of reasons, not just so people can find you, but so you can also put yourself out there and you find opportunities. No one's going to just apply to a job, post and pray and sit down and hope that they get found. So if someone is actively on social media, there's a more likelihood that they will be considered for opportunities because they're going to come up more often. They're going to have more connections that can get them closer to a potential hiring manager.
And I want to say as well as with, social media, let's just say looking for a job, because I think all of us are saying that we use LinkedIn number one, for certain positions, Facebook. But one thing I can definitely say with LinkedIn, while students are actually going out and, doing these job searches, they probably have already applied to the organization or company already. Make sure that those two things match up, the resume and what's on LinkedIn, because I've seen and had to question some folks about, okay, it seems like this is kind of your timeline, but on LinkedIn, it says something different, which one is correct? So that is something that I think when you're doing a job search, make sure your resume is matching your LinkedIn profile. You probably don't have your resume on Snapchat, Instagram, or, Facebook, but definitely LinkedIn.
Right. Now that makes sense. That's actually a very valid point.
Pernell, what do you think about this question?
No, I agree with both Tia and Raven here. Nothing to add in addition to that.
Do you think that all positions, because there's some positions that don't really, or some occupations that don't necessarily need, I'm not sure I'd find my welder or somebody on a LinkedIn profile. You don't think that I could see like communication being really important, or maybe, office, definitely some office positions having a LinkedIn profile, but I'm not sure that everybody needs to have that.
For me, we do hire construction and welders and things of that nature. So it's not an immediate search on social media. It would be in the interview that triggered that extra search, which may be on social media for me.
Okay.
Something that was said.
I think somebody else had a comment too.
Well, what I was going to add to that, welders and skilled trades, So LinkedIn probably would be my first point, just as Pernell said, but Facebook would be. And so for them to have a social media presence, there actually are 105 different groups per city to join so that you can actually find a job. So there's like the Wilders Association group on Facebook. So the question is really, how important is it to have a presence? I do think it's important, especially if you're looking for a job. If you put it out there, there may be someone that's actually looking and they can connect with that, or joining those groups, being visible is important too.
Okay, great. All right, so excellent. Thank you guys. So our next question, Jasmine?
Yes. How do you keep your personal / professional persona separate on social media?
All right, so this plays right back into that poll that we took with the audience at the beginning of the webinar. Now, tell us, how do you recommend keeping that personal / professional persona separate on social media? Because, everybody wants to let their hair down and be their true selves and, show that with their family and their friends, but they don't necessarily want, that's not their professional side. So where's the balance? How do you make that balance?
I think for me, I definitely, on my resume, on my business cards, I have my LinkedIn page, how they can get there directly to my LinkedIn. I don't, I guess I'm not driving them to my personal Facebook page. I'm driving them to my LinkedIn, my professional. So if you want to look up anything about me, here you go. My Facebook is private, but I already know that it's really not private. When I say private, it's probably only 10% private because I pushed that button. But I know there may be someone else. I have like over 1,000 friends that may know someone that knows someone that knows someone that can actually, take a snapshot of whatever I put on Facebook and blast me, right? So I am still cautious. I still think with the acronym, and just being cautious of what I put, because I do know I have like a lot of playful information on my Facebook, but it could be offensive to someone. I don't know, so I try to drive them to LinkedIn.
Right. We have a comment in the chat box too. Do you see that one?
Let's see. Isabel, I am afraid to use social media, so I do not use it much.
I want to say something to that comment. I used to feel that way years ago. I actually am one of LinkedIn sent me a letter. I was one of their first 100 LinkedIn profiles that they ever had back in 2003. And I'm dating myself, but I refused during that time. I was very tunnel vision. I refused to create a Facebook page. And I only got on Facebook 5 years ago, when I did like this fitness challenge, because they require you go on Facebook and check in every time you work out. And anyway, I tried to fake them. I said, hey, can I create like a Facebook fake page? They're like, no, you need a real one. Long story short, I'm actually glad I'm on Facebook now. And I'm also glad that I'm on Instagram for lots of reasons. One, the connectivity to family, friends, college friends, high school friends. It's really like opened my eyes to the world itself versus just in my own backyard. But then also, secondly, it's helped build my brand. So to go back to your question, how do you keep the persona for both personal and professional separate? You can definitely keep them separate. My rule of thumb is my heartbeat, like my thoughts, the way that I am, are the same. I might share different stuff, but basically my heart, my thoughts are very much the same. I'm not a sweet person on LinkedIn than an ugly person on Facebook. I'm completely consistent in who I am as a person and my brand. So that's how I keep them separate. Just the information I share is going to be very, very different. Information on LinkedIn, I'm really trying to help a whole bunch of people advance their career, whether they know me or not. On Facebook, it's different, but it's still my strategy is still to help people and to advance them, because that's who I am at core.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, and I just saw someone make a comment. I want to say something. It says, my sister does not like when I tag her. Here's what I do. I hate when people tag me. So I personally actually have it protected. You can go tag me all day, but I have to approve the tag for other people to see it. And I have family members that will say, hey, I thought I tagged you in the post. I'm like, I don't know about that, because I don't want all of the thoughts that you have for
Yeah.
it to look as if it's me. No, if it's on my page, I approved it.
Right.
Yeah, that's it's been a big concern too. Truth be known, I don't have social media. I tried to do LinkedIn years ago, and then when I left that job, I kind of left that LinkedIn profile behind too, and I just haven't done it. Now, there's a real strong personal reason as to why I don't have a Facebook account, and so, but for me, and because of some things, I just don't participate on social media. Um, so it's curious. I keep trying to figure out how am I going to get around this, but there's some really legitimate reasons as to why I won't do social media. But I'm seeing that there's just it's a little scary for me. It's a little scary for me. Maybe, some years have gone by and the threat won't be so much there anymore, but it's just I understand what this person said about not wanting to venture into social media because it's just too much out there. And, you know, it's not private. No matter what you think, it really isn't. And, sometimes I just worry, hey, is this going to haunt me later? Because I just don't want to chance it. So I know, odd that I'm doing a social media presentation when I really don't like it myself. But, the truth of the matter is this is something that it is a way of life now. Everybody's on it to some degree, and professionally, I see the use for it. And for that reasons, I think that there are some serious benefits to having a social media presence professionally speaking. So, okay. So with that, let's move on into another activity that we have. So here's what we're going to do. We just started talking about this. This is all about creating a professional brand and how can you do this on different platforms for different jobs. So this is something that we really thought about for our teachers in the audience today. How can you help your students when in their career choice, in their professions, really market themselves? So we're asking our employers to give us some feedback on this. So what we want to know from you guys is what social media platforms should these occupations be using? And what kind of posts do you really want to see on these on their what kind of social media posts do you want to see for these careers? Okay, so let's start.
All right. So for teachers and teacher assistants, what panelists, what do you all recommend? What kind of platforms no, you're fine. What kind of platforms should they be using and what kind of posts should they be posting?
I'll make it fast because I know our time is limited. They should use Facebook because that's where parents are. And it should be positive, something that's going to help influence children and grow their potential careers into going to higher education.
I agree with Raven.
Accountants and office assistants.
Accountants and office staff. Okay, so same question. What platforms and what do you guys want to see from accountants and office staff?
I would definitely say LinkedIn and office staff, especially accountants. If there's any type of post that they may have that talks about any changes in taxes or any type of things that would help individuals out positively when it comes to financing and money, I would always say definitely put that in there. Office staff as well, if there's something positive that's different, like let's say, what's some of the holidays? We have a different holiday every day, but it's like Happy Office Assistants Day or something like that. You want to put those type of positivities or Happy Bosses Day. So definitely anything that's going to be positive.
All right, thank you. And then we have nurses and caregivers. Let's see, what platforms do you guys recommend for this job category and what should they be posting?
I would be good with Facebook and posting about healthcare. Yeah, Facebook for me.
Facebook for you? Okay.
Tia, didn't you mention once before about nurses and some of the posting that were going on throughout the pandemic?
I think that was Raven, but yeah, I think Raven mentioned that on one of our calls.
Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sharing that they're heavy on Instagram and Facebook, but last year during the pandemic, we heard their voices loud and clear through Instagram because they didn't have the proper PPE that they needed to take care and save lives. So we watched an uproar of a lot of Instagram videos and all of that last year during the pandemic. So I think, nurses should continue to use their voice through Instagram and through Facebook so they can share positive experiences and stories and get more nurses into the field, because we're losing. Last year, we lost 15% of nurses. We already have a nurse shortage. So to lose that high percentage of nurses due to COVID is very sad and scary.
And today is the first day that we are allowed not to have masks anymore in Texas. So you're probably going to hear a lot more nurses speaking up about that, especially if our numbers increase. So, that may be a good platform, as Pernell and Raven mentioned, on Facebook, kind of like hearing, having your ear to what's going on firsthand through, their everyday lives and what they're dealing with.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So we've got two more. Tell us about HVAC electricians and welders.
I would say Facebook here as well. The opportunity to engage audiences and upload videos and some of their products that they've actually welded, or the work that they've done. So Facebook for me.
Yeah, and then Raven mentioned too, just a minute ago, about how there's different groups out there, Facebook groups that are craft associations, basically, or trade associations that they could join in and learn about job opportunities through Facebook. So obviously Facebook's a good one too. All right. And then last but not least, customer service.
LinkedIn and or Facebook, but LinkedIn for sure. If someone is customer service, they should be sharing positive things, positive customer stories, something to help their current company's brand if they can. That's what I'd recommend, but I think it's twofold for them.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. All right. So we're going to leave you with this.
All right. Okay. So this is a quote that we found. It's by Jeff Davis, an award-winning author. People will perceive you based on their own frame of reference, and their biases are usually completely out of your control. And so we kind of just wanted to leave you guys with this quote, especially, the instructors, to remind your students that we can't control how people view us. And that it's just basically people are going to perceive you on their own frame of mind and on their own biases. It's just something that we just can't control. But your students can control what they post on social media. So again, remind your students that to use that THINK acronym. Make sure that they are using a positive social media presence, especially again in the job search process, and that they're branding themselves correctly, because these recruiters are looking for a online personality. And so again, just have them be mindful of what message and what image they're putting out there on these social networking platforms. Again, we just want to thank you guys for participating. And if anybody else wants to say any lasting words, by all means, feel free to do so at this time.
So I guess one thing that Raven said that I want to just reemphasize real quickly, it's what you say on social media. It's the feeling. I think you really said something that was you made an excellent point. It's the emotional feeling that we leave with people. So if you're positive, if you share positive things, then I think then that just kind of spreads. And if you just continue to spread the positivity, then you get liked and people will come back to you because you're somebody people want to get to know. And on that point, we want to thank you so much for today. Thank you both, all of you, Raven, Tia, and Pernell, so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure working with all of you. It was a pleasure having you with us. You gave us some great information, fantastic tips. We are so grateful for having you out with us today. And last but not least, if you have any questions, I'm seeing a whole lot of questions in the chat box,
And so thank you so much for sharing. And Jasmine and Victoria, thank you for arranging this. We truly appreciate you being here. So thank you all, and we look forward to next time.